Ladies and gentlemen, I want to show you a number of clips proving that Trump did not try to foment a rebellion. Democrats themselves have even admitted that he used the word peaceful. Hit subscribe, share this everywhere. This is a clear fact that the January committee and anyone who thinks Trump committed a rebellion have conveniently ignored. Hit subscribe if you're new to this channel. The Supreme Court, because of this admission in Congress by a top Democrat here, will of course keep Trump on every single state's ballot and overturn the absurd Colorado ban. Listen to a top Democrat in Congress admit that Trump did not foment a rebellion.
So in the entire speech, which was roughly 1,100 words, he used the word peaceful once. And using the word peaceful was the only suggestion of nonviolence. And President Trump used the word fight or fighting 20 times.
Their entire argument is that Trump used the word peaceful once and used the word fighting 20 times. Therefore, this is a rebellion and his attempt at overthrowing the country. Does that make any sense to you? Then you have, of course, the Federal Bureau of Investigation found no evidence Trump or allies organized any rebellion. This is the Daily Beast. They published a hit piece on me when I was a Bernie Sanders supporter. My only sin when I was on the left was not voting for the Democratic nominee and just staying with Bernie Sanders, which is embarrassing to both Bernie Sanders voters and myself. I should have just voted for Trump. Record low poverty, record highs in household median income. Hit subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen. To my super chat, thank you again. Let's listen to this again. Top Democrat right here. It's 3 minutes and 30 seconds into his speech in Congress about how Trump tried to overthrow the government. It's right here.
So in the entire speech, which was roughly 1,100 words, he used the word peaceful once. And using the word peaceful was the only suggestion of nonviolence.
He used the word peaceful once. This is the case against Trump. He said, go there peacefully. He didn't tell anyone to commit any crimes. By the way, to my super chat, AF, thank you again. Greatly appreciated. This is why, one of the many reasons why the Supreme Court will side with Trump. We can hear this again. He used the word peaceful, peacefully go and demonstrate. He did not say, go and take over the government. He did not foment, compel, influence anyone to do anything. When people committed crimes that day, they did so because they decided to, not because Trump told them to. Believe it or not, if you agree with Trump, you still have control of free will. Let's see this again.
So in the entire speech, which was roughly 1,100 words, he used the word peaceful once. And using the word peaceful was the only suggestion of nonviolence. And President Trump used the word fight or fighting 20 times. Now again, consider the context.
The context was obviously he didn't like the results because he didn't think they were fair, and he thought he got Bernie Sanders. Sandered. He thought he got Bernie Sanders. He thought that the DNC and Democrats and media did to him what they did to Bernie Sanders in 2016. That was the context. That was the context. Then you have other Democrats, we'll get to Trump, but then you have other Democrats Well, we can get to Trump first. But here, this is Trump immediately after, or we can go here. This is Trump immediately after what took place.
Brought to justice. Now I am asking, I want to speak to you tonight about the troubling events of the past week. As I have said, the incursion of the U.S. Capitol struck at the very heart of our republic. It angered and appalled millions of Americans across the political spectrum. I want to be very clear. I unequivocally condemn the violence that we saw last week. Violence and vandalism have absolutely no place in our country and no place in our movement. Making America great again has always been about defending the rule of law, supporting the men and women of law enforcement, and upholding our nation's most sacred traditions and values. Mob violence goes against everything I believe in and everything our movement stands for. No true supporter of mine could ever endorse political violence. No true supporter of mine could ever disrespect law enforcement or our great American flag. No true supporter of mine could ever threaten or harass their fellow Americans. If you do any of these things, you are not supporting our movement. You are attacking it, and you are attacking our country. We cannot tolerate it. Tragically, over the course of the past year, made so difficult because of COVID-19, violence spiral out of control. We have seen too many riots, too many mobs, too many, or on the left, a Democrat or a Republican. There is never a justification for violence. No excuses, no exceptions. America is a nation of laws. Those who engaged in the attacks last week will be brought to justice. Now I am asking everyone who has ever believed in our agenda to be thinking of ways to ease tensions, calm tempers, and help to promote peace in our country. There has been reporting that additional demonstrations.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Does this sound like somebody who wants to overthrow the United States government? Okay? Does this sound like somebody who wants to overthrow the United States government? No, it doesn't. It doesn't sound like somebody that wants to overthrow the government. Okay? What took place was a terrible, terrible day. All right? It was not an example of anyone trying to overthrow the government. Now, you can look, and here's an example of a Democratic congresswoman telling people to possibly commit criminal acts. Here's an example, okay?
If you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And
if you see anyone, you get out and create a crowd. These are specific instructions. Trump did nothing of the sort.
you push back on them, and you tell them they're not welcome.
You push back against fellow Americans because you disagree with them and you tell them they're not welcome. And that leads to what? Peace? These are specific instructions, ladies and gentlemen. Specific instructions by a Democratic congresswoman. Where are the specific instructions with Trump? Where are the specific instructions with Donald Trump? Because we haven't seen any. We haven't seen any specific instructions. You have a situation where Democrats for a long time have stated something that isn't true. Media continues to lie by omission. The reality is The Tucker Carlson footage shows that there is no, people were let into the building. People have been acquitted. One or two people were already acquitted of charges because law enforcement opened the door. How anyone can think this is a rebellion or an attempt at overthrowing the government, I have no clue. It's unbelievable. But here you have another speech from Trump. This is a speech like the day of or the day after. So how is this the example of somebody who wants to overthrow the government? It makes no sense at all.
I'd like to begin by addressing the heinous attack on the United States Capitol. Like all Americans, I am outraged by the violence, lawlessness, and mayhem. I immediately deployed the National Guard and federal law enforcement to secure the building and expel the intruders. America is and must always be a nation of law and order. The demonstrators who infiltrated the Capitol have defiled the seat of American democracy. To those who engaged in the acts of violence and destruction, you do not represent our country.
Where is this man who tried to overthrow the government? I'm still looking for this maniac because it's not Trump. So where is this person? Sherry, hello. Where is this person? Paul, Gloria, hello. Everybody here, hello. Debbie, hello. Where is this person? I mean, you can look back right here. This is very important. And this is the reason why the Supreme Court they've already made their decision. Democrats know very well the Supreme Court will overturn the Colorado ban. They know that.
So in the entire speech, which was roughly 1,100 words, he used the word peaceful once.
They admit the man used the word peaceful. Peacefully go there to demonstrate. Peaceful. They've already admitted that.
And using the word peaceful was the only suggestion of nonviolence.
The only suggestion, that's the only suggestion you need. If you use the word fight in a political context, you're not talking about Braveheart. You're not talking about going into a Sherman tank. You're talking about, voting. You're talking about, fundraising, whatever. Demonstrating, using your First Amendment, not anything like overthrowing the government. That was a terrible, terrible day that should never have taken place. You had 4 supporters of Trump and a law enforcement official the day after, or a couple days after, who lost their lives. But the people who lost their lives were supporters of Donald Trump. So it's like unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
President Trump used the word fight or fighting 20 times. Now again, consider the context.
Yes, the context was not trying to overthrow the United States government. So the argument that the Supreme Court is going to hear is that he tried to overthrow the United States government by using the word peaceful once and using other words that compelled people to commit crimes. What kind of leaps of logic are these? Where does the Supreme Court is a conservative Supreme Court anyway? But you're talking about a Civil War era law where each of the justices are very knowledgeable and extremely educated and extremely knowledgeable on that time period of U.S. history, okay? You had something like around 700,000 Americans who lost their lives. They didn't lose their lives because one general or one politician said peaceful once, and then, other words, in greater number. Trump did not commit a rebellion. It was virtually unarmed. It's the only virtually unarmed rebellion where law enforcement allows people to enter a building that's ever happened before in human history. So, let's continue. This is interesting for me. It's interesting for me because this is the one time you'll get Democrats to admit that he used the word peaceful.
He'd been telling him a big lie over and over.
And Democrats have been telling a big lie about Trump and Russia over and over. That was only lying. Trump never worked with the Kremlin. He never interfered to get emails showing Bernie Sanders was cheated. None of these things took place.
Getting them amped up, getting them angry because an election had been stolen from.
Getting them amped up? You mean like this? When you're telling people to get out and form a crowd whenever you see a Trump supporter and tell them they're not welcome? Tell your fellow American that you're not welcome because you like Trump? This is what Democrats literally have told people. And you still have the May 31st, 2020, you could say rebellion near White House spirals out of control again. Where is the outrage from Kinzinger and Cheney and Democrats here? Is that okay? So you have the Supreme Court has already, ladies and gentlemen, ruled in favor of Trump on this issue. Okay? He didn't commit, he has presidential immunity when it comes to, he has presidential immunity when it comes to a speech. He has presidential immunity. And here's him again condemning. He'll continue. Let's see. We'll continue with this.
And to those who broke the law, you will pay. We have just been through an intense election and emotions are high, but now tempers must be cooled and calm restored. We must get on with the business of America. My campaign vigorously pursued every legal avenue to contest the election results. My only goal was to ensure the integrity of the vote. In so doing, I was fighting to defend American democracy. I continue to strongly believe that we must reform our election laws to verify the identity and eligibility. Challenging time for our people, a menacing pandemic, all of us working together. It will require a renewed emphasis on the civic values of patriotism, faith, charity, community, and family. We must revitalize the sacred bonds of love and loyalty that bind us together as one national family. To the citizens of our country, serving as your president has been the honor of my lifetime. And to all of my wonderful supporters, I know you are disappointed, but I also want you to know that our incredible journey is only just beginning. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
Is this the so this is the person that's trying to overthrow the government? I want to know, because this happened right. Where's the apparatus? Where are the allies? Where are the generals? Where are the rogue military units backing Trump? I want to, what kind of fantasy world do Democrats live in? This complete fantasy world. Where Trump tried to overthrow the government, and it said there's a legal statute that says nobody who tries to rebel against the government, like a Confederate, will be able to be a president. He's not even convicted. That's also the thing. He hasn't even been convicted. That's why the photo on this the thumbnail here has him showing he was acquitted. He was acquitted both times. Okay? You have to be at least convicted. If you want to say, oh, he committed a rebellion, then convict him of that. It makes no sense. I mean, it just, the whole thing is they just want to stop Trump at all costs. Nicholas, thank you. Nicholas, as always, my God, thank you so very much. Nicholas, thank you. They want to stop Trump because they know that he is on a path towards a tremendous, tremendous victory. So they're going to lie by omission, and that's why I started off this segment with an admission. I mean, this is really important. This is a top Democrat. Okay, this is a top Democrat admitting this is the reason the Supreme Court is not going to say that he engaged in any rebellion. This is the reason right here.
So in the entire speech, which was roughly 1,100 words, he used the word peaceful once. And using the word peaceful was the only suggestion of nonviolence. And President Trump used the word fight or fighting 20 times. Now, again, consider the context. He had been telling him a big lie.
So if you lie, therefore your constituents don't have any free will, and they'll just go ahead and commit crimes. Is that how it works? I mean, it's really unbelievable. At least you have, and Nicholas, thank you again, at least you have an admission. You have an admission here where a top Democrat, a congressional Democrat, admits to Trump using the word peaceful. You cannot, the Supreme Court is not stupid. They're not going to go ahead and prevent Trump from being on any ballot because he used one word peaceful and then he used a lot of other words that then remove free will from individuals. How does that work? How does that work? I mean, this is the reason the Supreme Court has already ruled in Trump's favor. They're not gonna prevent him from being on the ballot in Colorado or anywhere else, especially when Michigan and Maine and Minnesota and others said, nah, he hasn't even been convicted. You'd have to have him convicted. You'd have to have the man convicted. And then you take him off the ballot. Again, this is really important, ladies and gentlemen. I know it might seem boring, but it's really important.
So in the entire speech, which was roughly 1,100 words, he used the word peaceful once. And using the word peaceful was the only suggestion of nonviolence. And President Trump used the word fight or fighting 20 times. Now again, consider the context. He had been telling him a big lie over and over.
What kind of very warped pop psychology? So, is this Congresswoman liable for any violence done because she told people to create a crowd around Trump supporters? When does the bizarre psychoanalysis of Trump supporters, when does that end? When do Democrats simply look in the mirror and say, you lost or you won? They won and they're still not happy. For supporters of President Trump, one woman unarmed lost her life that day. I don't see, and you've had unarmed demonstrators lose their life on the left, and it's like, or you've had unarmed people. If you're unarmed, you lose your life. Apparently, if you're a conservative, Democrats immediately turn into who they really are and say, oh, you deserved it. There's an unarmed woman, a supporter of Trump, who lost her life. Do you think Kinzinger or Cheney or anyone cares? He used the word peaceful. Therefore, the people who committed crimes had nothing to do with his speech, which, by the way, he enjoys presidential immunity. You could perform a speech as president. Okay, you could perform a speech as president. Believe it or not, Democrats, you can perform a speech as president, So. I just, I don't think that and also, here's another reason. There's no evidence he committed any kind of rebellion. It's right there. He used the word peaceful. Okay, how do you make the leap of logic if the man, you say that it's a speech, then you admit sheepishly that he used the word peaceful, and then you then say, well, you know what? And then you say, he should be removed from every ballot because he used other words aside from peaceful. And oh, by the way, there's no evidence anything was organized. But he still fomented a rebellion. No organization used the word peaceful. He was performing a speech, which he had every right to do as president. So how on earth again is this even when the Supreme Court, when they come out officially, be here on this channel, ladies and gentlemen. They come out officially, be here on this channel. You have a situation where really absurd leaps of logic are being made by media and Democrats, lies by omission. If you have the Federal Bureau of Investigation not finding any evidence of an organized plot, then how on earth are you going to prevent somebody from being on a ballot? And then you have an example of left-leaning protesters, demonstrators, an example of left-leaning demonstrators right near the White House. And then you had media disparaging and mocking Trump. Oh, he shrunk back into the basement. Oh, look at Trump running for his life into the basement. Oh, look, he took shelter. Gosh, couldn't stand the heat, huh? So that's okay if it's demonstrators on the left. That's okay. Clash with police. It happened all throughout that summer. So, you have a situation, ladies and gentlemen, where a lot of this is media repeating the same thing over and over and over again. So, just the same thing over and over and over again. Here you can listen to Trump again. This, by the way, is like the day of or the day after. Doesn't really sound like somebody who wants to overthrow the government.
Americans, I want to speak to you tonight about the troubling events of the past week. As I have said, the incursion of the U.S. Capitol struck at the very heart of our republic. It angered and appalled millions of Americans across the political spectrum. I want to be very clear. I unequivocally condemn the violence that we saw last week. Violence and vandalism have absolutely no place in our country and no place in our movement. Making America great again has always been about defending the rule of law, supporting the men and women of law enforcement, and upholding our nation's most sacred traditions and values.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, definitely not an example of somebody who tried to overthrow the government. There are other when it officially goes down and Trump is on every single ballot. Okay, be here for sure on this channel, but there's no way the Supreme Court is going to prevent this man from being on every state's ballot, especially since the notion of him trying to overthrow the government was so absurd. And you already had this type of behavior near the White House late May of 2020 without any indignation from Democrats or media. Anyway, hit subscribe. Just wanted to do this quick live stream. I was a little late and I apologize. I'll be back tomorrow, probably around 3 p.m. Pacific time. Sorry, 3 p.m. Eastern. So I will do a live stream at 3 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. I might do it a little earlier, about 2:45 or 2:30. But be here tomorrow for the live stream. Thank you so much to my super chat. Thank